Yeah,
by the way,
that.
Brandon, I asked him on the couch last night. I go, by the way, how's episode 12, which is from the golf course, which, by the way, I was fucking hammered showing up there, like hungover hammered. And he goes, yeah, it's not looking so good. So, we know that there's these fiduciary definitions out there, right?
What's a fiduciary?
321, 338, and today I want to focus on 316. And for our audience, what is a 316?
Fun fact, that's my daughter's birthday, March 16.
Oh,
easy for you to remember, so you can figure out what a fiduciary
Still have
is.
no
Way to
clue
go,
what it is.
Maya. I think the best way to define a 316, I'm actually going to steal from a conversation that you guys had, is just take it back to point A and walk through it. And so this is the experience of whom? A plan sponsor.
So that's the first thing, right? Who is a 316? Traditionally, it's the plan sponsor.
The plan administrator is actually the legal name for that plan sponsor in that deal. Right?
Okay.
So the best way to talk about the responsibilities of a 316 is just start it from the beginning, right? So here you go. You set up a 401k plan. The first thing you got to do is sign an adoption agreement, right?
No.
No.
Wow, you've jumped way ahead.
Oh, sorry.
That's what Lance wants us to do, but we're not there yet.
Let's go. Let's take it from the start.
You gotta pick, before you get to that point, you gotta pick who's gonna be doing that.
Fair enough.
So pick your providers. Meet with your advisor and whoever they bring in as your team, and select who you want to bring in as the TPA, as the record keeper.
That's your first fiduciary action, right? Secondarily, you pick who you want to be part of that team. And now typically you're starting to design the plan itself. What type of plan do you want set up? Match, no match, safe harbor, no safe harbor, profit sharing, so forth. And you're using your discretion and what your objectives are to create the plan itself, the infrastructure.
Right,
in that
next.
process is choosing the trustees.
Right, and then creating the doc, signing the doc, putting it in place.
Signing the
doc.
docs.
That's a big one. That's a big 316 role that people like to outsource sometimes.
Because by signing that document, you're saying, hey, these are the rules, these are the provisions that we're adopting. And now that you've done that, you have to deliver notice to your participants. And that's going to happen throughout the year, but at the beginning, there's some notices.
That's a role of that 316 duty, right?
And not only do you have to ensure that you have the notices, but they're actually being delivered and in the hands of the people that are supposed to get them.
Yeah.
It can be done electronically, but if
Maybe.
that doesn't
There's-
fit those
Maybe.
guidelines, you have
There's
to do it
rules.
hard copy. So you have to be
Next.
cognizant of that.
That puppy's in place, and now you've got to make these deposits, right? And you have to make them on a timely basis.
Yeah.
They need to be accurate, right?
You've got to reconcile that what you're pulling from the employee's account is indeed what is making it into the plan itself.
And it's got to be going in on a
Timely
yeah,
basis.
Yeah. So you have those responsibilities. Let's continue down the line. You need to determine when people are eligible, when they actually can go into the plan or
Well,
actually can get the match or the profit.
And this kind of bleeds in to take one step back to the other types of fiduciaries, but when you're setting up the plan, you got to pick the funds. That's
Right.
a fiduciary action.
Fair enough.
And they often outsource it to a 321
That
or a
could be
338,
something
but it is part of the 316 action.
As on an ongoing basis, you need to kind of reconcile that what's over at your record keeper actually matches up with your payroll, right? That monies are going into the proper accounts.
It's a lot more involved than I think people actually realize, though.
There
too.
are now
absolutely.
there are loans potentially that need to be overseen to make sure they're done accurately and properly. There are distributions that need to happen. There are potentially required minimum distributions. Those are all things that, in a sense, a plan administrator and or 316 has oversight over, right? And
Yeah.
responsibility for. And then you kind of tail towards the end, unless I've left some things out, maybe I have, but you're 5,500, right? So now your IRS Form 5,500 is being prepared, and you have the responsibility not only to sign it,
Validate it.
but also make sure that the information that's on there
Exactly.
is accurate. There's questions on there that you have to answer honestly and truthfully. Your responsibility is for that as well. So that's kind of the landscape.
There's
of
some
a
other minor
316.
things in there.
the fees plan itself. on an annual
Determining that
basis
your
to-
fees are reasonable, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Getting a fiduciary or a fidelity bond, or
Good,
a bond.
good.
I mean, there's all kinds of little things in there, but I think the way we summed it up from start to finish looks over the course of a year of starting a plan and pretty much hits on most of the 316 rules.
Actually, repeat it every year.
and what you guys kind of stumbled upon there in that methodology of determining what is a 316 is awesome. It's very simple. What do you have to do as a plan administrator? And that will make up your list of services. We're going to put a pin on that. We're going to put that on ice. We're going to put it on the burner, so to speak, and come back to it because we've got to jump into these guys right here.
It's getting a little thirsty. I
But
can't
as
talk
we-
without
Stay thirsty,
sipping
my
some
friends.
When
of
we
this.
get to that, we're going to talk about that list of services and how different 316 providers are tackling different areas of that.
I
So
hope
we'll
we
see.
can just expand.
Oh,
Now,
Send one right at the camera here.
as Chad is
I'm gonna
opening up,
That was like your drive the other day.
oh,
wow. Sorry.
As Chad is opening up these beers, and he's going to describe for us this beer that we're drinking. Let me put it into my super cool mug.
Mark, you have to pour your own today. Same with you, Justin. This is
I actually prefer a brown bag to put this in the drink out of.
Brother Thelonious Belgian Style Abbey Ale, which we researched and found out it's just kind of neat that for every beer that you drink from Brother Thelonious, you're actually helping make a donation to the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz, where they are helping the children of the United States get adult level education of the jazz.
I kind of
They're
imagine.
giving
I
back
imagine
one
Mark.
beer at a time.
I imagine Mark listening to jazz music late at
don't-
night.
you don't-
Mark and Phil Collins.
Right, you don't listen to
don't
jazz
know why.
music in the dark doing
So
plan
guys,
design?
cheers it up, and welcome to Retireholics episode number 13, where we change the retirement plan industry
One beer.
one
And
beer
one beer
at
And
a
the jazz
time.
music, Thelonious.
True.
Yeah.
Look at
All
that
right.
color commentary.
Now we're kicked off
Thelonious
and
is not
started.
erroneous.
I would like to talk about and bring a close to
Makes sense.
our very first Retireholics competition,
Not at all.
which was
He just
the
says it all
Beer
the time.
of the Month Club contest, where we had our viewers chime in via LinkedIn account, via Facebook, on what beer they thought the Retireholics should have on their show in the future. And how I want to do this is each of you has chosen from those comments one that you liked. We're going to name those fairly
This is kinda
quickly.
hard.
Fairly
Not gonna
quickly.
lie.
And we're going to put them in a hat. We're going to pick the winner. And then that person gets beer delivered to their home for a period of, I forget.
6 months.
It's 48 beers goes on us to them. Okay?
I increased
So,
it.
Justin, maybe you want to start with the person that you're putting in the hat?
Gonna put me on blast right now, huh?
Yes, I am.
So, for the record, this was pretty tough. Had a lot of good ones, but when it came down to it, I chose Vince Moiso.
Vince Moiso. And
Why, Justin?
Why did you choose Vince?
No, primarily because he gave me a shout out. I was pretty happy about that.
Shout out
Because I am the
because
quiet
of
one on
what
the
you do
show. I
on
don't
the
get a lot of
show?
shout outs at all.
Yeah, well,
I'm going to just stay
So,
for
you've
our
never,
audience.
you've never shouted once on the show.
I
Why don't
think
you shout
that-
his name.
I think that Justin's vote is super biased and horrible. It's someone in his sales territory,
Yeah.
and is someone who I think he has an
Should we
upcoming meeting
disregard
with.
his vote?
So no, he gets his vote. He's part of Retireholics.
Now you're on
so
blast.
It goes in the hat.
This is your first.
Let's not give it more
contribution to the
attention.
show.
Mark, your
Yeah.
vote.
I don't need a card to remember who it was, but
I really hope Vince gets this one just to spite you all.
I'm
You
just
could
going
win.
to say
You
that
could
some of the
win.
comments you guys had were
Some great
hilarious and
Yep.
very vulgar in some sense, which I appreciate. But
Who called us a dirty bastard?
right here, Kim Trathan. So you referred to us as dirty bastards, and first of all, I'm offended because I know that you're only look. We're clean cut, nicely dressed. You're talking about
Okay, so
the dirty bastard in the corner.
Kim Trathan is definitely going into the hat. Chad,
Kimberly Oros Kunan.
and she wrote a novel.
She did write a novel. She gave a link to the beer. She gave a description. I have the tough time of describing the beer that we drink every episode. You should read the description that she wrote.
It was something about raspberries.
It was. It was
I will-
a fruity
I will
vegetable
give-
beer. is
I will
what she
give
stated.
Kimberly-
Never tried the beer yet.
I'll give Kimberly a thumbs up as well, although she's not my vote, because she pretty much put me on blast at the end of her thing saying, I think JD will approve since this was the closest beer I could find to a wine cooler.
Ooh.
So, thanks a lot, Kimberly. That's pretty nice of you. I actually picked the same person as Mark. So I picked Kim Trathan, and I'm just going to read for you Kim's, which Mark kind of alluded to. She says, Founder's Dirty Bastard. That's the beer she wants us to drink. Why? Because I'm watching a bunch of dirty bastards discuss the retirement plan industry. Their beer should match. And I'd love to win. And by the way, she also was the only one that followed up later with, what's the deal, man? You said 50 comments and there's only been 20. Like, you guys are such a joke. Is anyone ever going to win? So that's good persistent.
Take a few years.
That's good persistent thing. We'll go ahead and let you pick. Don't let Justin, because you know he's going to try to pick his guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're building a brand, dude. Come on.
Dun dun dun. The winner is. Oh, Kimberly Oros
Kunan.
You have won yourself some free beer.
A lifetime
Retireholics.
supply of beer, so long
And
as you
that
only
also
live for 6
means
months.
So
We
It's only
have
for
to
6
try
months.
that said beer.
True. Which
Next show?
actually, of all the
On our-
beers
not
listed,
next episode, but the
I'm
next
pretty
episode.
interested in that.
Cool. All right, so we are going to dive straight back into kind of the conversation we were having along 316, and I want to evolve it a little deeper. We talked about what it is, and so now I would like to talk about, so who typically provides 316 services? Obviously, a third-party administrator is a common 316 provider, but there are others out there, right?
Record keepers.
Yeah, record keepers.
Bundled vendors.
There's even some firms that have opened up this specific side of
Outsource.
servicing that has nothing to do with our industry prior. Like, there are firms that focus just on outsourcing fiduciary responsibilities.
And I would also say to you that there are even, believe it or not, some, I won't call them advisors, but like consultants that have a specific skill set in this area. So they come in for a fee and say, hey, I'm going to overlook all this. Where you could still have a TPA, but someone else is acting as a 316. So anyways, it can come in a variety of delivery methods. The next question is, to you guys mostly, is this in demand? Are you hearing chatter around it? And give me the plan sponsor's perspective. Give me the financial advisor's perspective. What's the word from the streets, boys?
It's a common conversation, right? I mean, I'm running into it constantly, regardless of whether it's an advisor or a plan sponsor. Usually, it's not what's a 316. It's a plan sponsor saying, I want no fiduciary obligations. I don't want to even be listed as a trustee, is what we've been running into a few times here recently. So how do I outsource all of that? And we had this conversation earlier. That's where you got to go and pull that thing back and say, you can outsource your role, hence the 316 role, but nonetheless, you're hiring the firm that you're outsourcing to.
You will always have
Fiduciary
to
duty.
overlook who you hired. Keep your finger on the pulse of that provider. We're all aware of that, right? I mean, you cannot relieve yourself of your responsibility. All you can do is get some support.
You can
can't, but-
mitigate most of it.
Yeah, sure.
Go on.
Not in terms of risk, but a lot of, I don't know what you guys are saying, but a lot of plan sponsors who either outsource HR or payroll or anything like that really have seen I've seen an uptick in requests for something like this.
It's because it
Or
fits
even,
their MO.
yeah, or even the larger companies who just don't want to spend the time tracking all eligibility, sending out notices and stuff like that with 100, 200 participants.
I definitely think the bigger you get, the more of a responsibility and chore it is.
The more attractive.
I'll say from advisor meetings I have a question I get is specific to, do you as a TPA offer 316
So-
services? So they're looking to work with providers, TPAs alike, that have that capability.
Okay, so there's definitely a need. There's definitely talk about it. And I want to kind of tie in, and we'll hit our next subject, which I kind of call my soapbox subject, but which is I kind of have some personal
So look at
opinions.
soap, no longer a dirty bastard.
I have kind of some personal opinions around this, but so here's an advisor asking you, do you offer it? And we're seeing lots of offerings from consultants, from bundle providers, from TPAs, from independents. You guys mentioned a list of services, right? We named off probably 15 to 20, right? And we were just sort of scratching the surface of things that happen. Here's my flow is, there are lots of different 316 offerings out there, and they center around what they're committing to. right? What per their contract
Yeah.
is that 316 actually saying, yeah, I will have oversight over this? And my issue with it is that vendors are choosing from that list and thereby watering down what I think what originally was intended as this great premium service, like this really cool premium, tons of oversight, mitigating your risk in a big way. And now the industry, in an attempt to create a sales advantage, has come up with some cheaper alternatives.
Yeah.
How are they cheaper? Easy. They just decided they're only going to cover a few of those services, and or they're going to caveat what they're doing by saying, look, I can only do my job as good as some of the things you provide me or some of the job that you do as well. You with me? Therefore, an advisor could say, do you do 316? And you could say yes. And that could mean nothing more than you're going to go ahead and sign the 5,500 but take no responsibility for anything because it's all based on the data that they provided you. Or you could say yes and you did every one of those services and you did it diligently. Should there be a different fee for both of those
Absolutely,
variations?
Because if you're going to tell someone that you provide 316, but you really don't provide everything, you're giving them, you're completely misleading them and the plan sponsor.
Well, and here's the problem is knowing our consumer and our industry and even the advisors that we partner with,
We don't know.
people are going to get tangled up in this.
Yeah.
I heard someone refer to it as 316 lite is out there now. Like, if you
like
offer
that.
it,
I like
do
that.
you, do you just pick the 5 or 10 things you're going to do and charge a fee for it, but you're really not doing everything? And then they consider that kind of a lower level version.
I think the moral of the story there is buyer beware
Yeah.
a little bit, and
All are created equal.
not all three.
And that's going to be the hard part,
316s.
really, because somebody's going to say, maybe a plan sponsor advisor is going to see, okay, I have 316 services here, and it's going to cost me $500 up front, $10 a head, or something like that. And then they're going to see someone like us who do quality service, and it devalues what we do because we're going to have a premium charge for it because we're going to do everything.
Well, it's
Super tough.
It's interesting too. Many of the 316 contracts that I've seen, and this is outside of the provider world, this would be independent folks, just list what they do, not what the duties are as a whole of the 316. We saw one recently from Standard that did a side by side that says, hey, here's the plan administrator role. Here's what you're still responsible for, and here's all the things we're going to do, which I thought was kind of cool because it lets the client know, hey, we're going to be a 316 if you take us up on this service, but you still have some duties that we can't outsource based upon your specific business.
And again, to kind of wrap this subject, I love that. I love that they're highlighting what they do and what the plan sponsor has to do. My issue is kind of what Mark was saying or what Justin was saying is you're going to see all these spreadsheets, all these RFPs, so to speak, all these comparisons, I should say, and it's going to say 316 services, check, check, check. But they're all different. And then, like you said, one's going to say it's $500. Someone else is going to come in and say it's $1,500, and some poor decisions are going to be made out there. So, anyways, hopefully that's super valuable to whoever's tuning in. Is that when you're looking at 316, you got to dive deeper.
You do.
And figure out what's going on. And I like to be honest with our audience. I'm struggling, as the CEO of our company, trying to figure out what's the best 316 that we can offer. Because my first instinct was, let's offer the premium one, the one that just looks at everything and covers everything for them. And I thought, what a great opportunity to offer a high quality and a high value. But that would come at a cost. And now I'm afraid that if that's my product offering, that it's going to end up in the trash can because they're going to see cheaper ones alongside.
Well,
So it's a tough world, man.
Let me add one last thing to this because we had a conversation on it last week. I love that thought of a heavy 316 taking on all of those duties.
That light
But
is heavy.
the bigger issue is what's the number one component to that is payroll, right?
True.
You need to have access
Good
to
data.
payroll. And so in my mind, in order to offer a true 316, you either have to have a payroll provider that plays friendly with you, or you need to be offering payroll in some capacity.
Or you're feeding data to your vendor, your payroll.
That's
you
what
could
I mean.
also
You have
fill
to have
the
a
gap.
payroll provider that's friendly.
But I love that you brought that up and that is a great segue, and maybe on a future episode we could dive deeper into that because you're right. The next kind of stone to overturn has to do with where's the data coming from, how accurate is it? 'Cause
How
it
do
can
you
create
validate all
efficiencies.
that stuff? How do you monitor eligibility? You need a good payroll feed.
And there's some possibilities of that. I don't even want to
The
ask the
payroll fee,
question.
but the person doing that needs to know what they're doing as well.
True. Because you don't tell me that 80 p.m. paychecks then are going to be awesome 316s because I'll throw up all over this table. All right.
On that note,
It's kind of my favorite part of every show. It's the one thing that has been in every single show.
Episode, yeah.
And it is usually accompanied by a great singing intro. Someone with a wonderful voice.
Maybe that was just it. Maybe the editor put it in there.
because you.
Oh,
Because we're not
find a
drinking
spot
fast
for it.
enough? Is that what you're
It
saying?
is the Wheel of Ice.
I think it's Mark's favorite part of the show as well.
It's really not.
We
It's
lost
really
our
not.
production assistant, so
I-
there's no longer a hand.
I have a strong feeling that I'm not going to lose this spin.
I have a strong feeling that Justin's actually going to lose this one.
Watch your mic.
Yeah, don't hurt yourself.
Smart.
I haven't even seen the wheel. What does it look
I
like?
just want the audience to realize
Can I
how,
see it?
how
Oh,
amazing that
That's
is
Mark.
not. Yeah.
Apparently it's you, Mark.
Okay.
Do we
Yeah,
have a
don't
Smirnoff
worry.
Ice?
Don't worry,
We do.
the Ice Queen is upon us. Don't worry.
Thank you, Ice Queen.
You guys have
Thank
a way
you.
to open this?
I don't know if
It's
Mark's
called a
hand's
twist-off?
strong enough to twist that open.
is it twist off for sure?
I think, yeah, it is.
How many times have you done this?
If you can't open your own
Unfortunately,
Smirnoff
too many
Ice,
times to
then
count.
you're in trouble.
Oh, God.
All right, Mark.
13.
So this
Hey,
is
Mark,
actually.
every time you do this, you like to make it a whole big grand thing.
No, I'm
just
not.
drink it,
I'm just
and we'll
I'm-
just
look,
move
I'm
on.
I'm actually just sitting
Mr.
down
stealing the
this time
spotlight. He's got to, like, milk this Wheel of Ice moment.
because
like,
I don't want to do it.
Yes, you do.
By the way, I'm rethinking this mug. It's kind of hard.
I'll be quite honest, this beer's a little tough.
rather
You're
enjoy
always
it.
getting this kind of beer.
You know what it reminds me of? The beer we drank a couple episodes ago from Standard.
Do you know that
They're
Mark's
homebrew?
like
Yeah.
getting slower as the episodes move on?
Do you blame him? He ages with every day. I feel like you lose a year of life every time you drink one of
Oh,
those.
wow, I didn't even finish it.
You just see him in an AA meeting in a few years going, I own Smirnoff Ice as part of my job.
I could probably get sued. It's all my employer's fault.
Let's be honest, that's not the only reason.
I
we
am,
get
I am
sued.
creating like the best case against
Right,
you
you're
possible.
It's documented. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Um,
I have
let's move
316
on
support on my case against.
to our next section, which is called hashtag
That was a,
Not
that
Your
one from last
Typical
episode, so it went
Advisor.
down.
And
Worse.
this is a section of the show where we try to find
It actually did
unique,
more.
cool, creative, innovative ways
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
for
What were we doing?
advisors to
typical
set
advisor.
themselves apart from the competition. We're going to hashtag Not Your Typical Advisor.
Well, so slow
Okay.
down. you
This
just
has
go
probably
down.
been the
By way,
most
we lost all our
well-received section.
Periscope viewers, so.
Oh,
I felt like they were calling me just to see if I would look at my watch.
I was pretty sure so my father-in-law was going to watch on
Who was
Periscope
calling?
because I was going to bring him today, but I apparently left the house without him.
Let's be honest with ourselves, though. How many Periscope viewers did we have?
3? Jeez.
Well,
I don't
it's
know.
a record. 10 collectively, but that's a lot of people who pop in and
Yeah,
pop
you
out.
never know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's stupid.
Remember,
Hey,
Oh.
you guys are making fun of our Periscope stuff, but we actually are getting a lot of social media interaction and
Look
a
at
lot
this
of people.
segue.
Look at
Look
that
at this.
segue.
Oh, I wasn't even doing that on
Oh, wow.
purpose.
oh, goodness. What's our next topic?
So, our topic for Not Your Typical Advisor, I knew I'd make that mistake one time, is social media for advisors. And I referenced, and this is a great guy to follow, Principal has a dude out there, John Furchin. Hopefully I didn't botch his last name, but I think
you
I got
got
that
it.
right. So check him out on LinkedIn and Twitter. He does great stuff.
He does.
And one of the things he's done recently is this embrace social media. And so it's a blog post that he did
It's not
for
recent.
advisors.
I've heard him speak about this for the past few years.
Oh, yeah, it's his
He's
gig.
been all
When I went
over
out
it.
to home office, he did a really compelling presentation on why you need to be involved.
I sat at a table with him in Chicago when they had us out for a TPA conference, and I actually broke the news to him right then and there as he spoke about social media, about Retireholics.
I
And
didn't
he
know this.
immediately popped on there and looked at it. So
I knew this, but I had forgotten about this. This is the guy that you guys met with or whatever?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that. Or I'd forgotten. He does great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank
so
you,
I'm-
John. Hope you are.
I'm glad that he's a fan of the show. So you read his blog post. He comes up with 3 points. I'm trying to pull them up now. The top 3 things to do before you dive into social media. Because let's be honest with our audience. a lot of advisors aren't so hip to social media, right? Maybe it's intimidating. Maybe they feel like it's a waste of time. Maybe they feel like they don't have the time.
I would say over all of that, it's compliance.
It's
Compliance.
And that's what he addresses at the very beginning,
Yeah.
right? Which I loved.
Yeah,
It's the unknown of compliance.
And by the way,
I've heard
that's
problems from
yeah.
advisors about, like, I can't even post a blog without putting it through compliance. So
Yeah.
it turns them off
Yeah,
naturally.
fair enough. Well, I personally feel like you better get over that real quick
We'll
because
figure out a way.
one, compliance is definitely going to kind of ease up. But two, all compliance means is that you have to put things in front of them. Well, I got news for you. You don't have to create a tweet right on the spot. You can go ahead and create 16 of them and archive them for a future date. Throw them through compliance, get them approved and using them, or a blog post the same way. Fine, write your blog now, throw it through compliance, and post it 2 months from now.
But that's
Get ahead of the
thing
game.
about that though is what about relevance? You know, say something comes up, something's going on in the industry, the DOL rule or whatever, and you want to post about it, but you got to wait 3.5, 4, or 5 weeks, whatever it is, before you can post it. By then, is it relevant anymore?
Well, here's the good news.
Shouldn't take you that
Whether
long.
right or wrong, buddy.
Yeah.
How long ago did the DOL fiduciary rule come out?
2 months.
Are you still seeing crap about it every day on your feeds
right?
and
And
your
I
streams?
guess that was a bad
So,
example.
yeah.
You used,
No,
but
no,
I think
no.
you get my point.
I guess my
But-
point is that our industry is very, very slow and long and stays in the moment for a long time.
And
so.
we've, from the beginning of having this conversation with advisors, the way he starts off his blog post is fantastic because this is what we've ran into. It's, hey, do you use social media for any type of marketing or engagement? And advisors go, no, compliance
really.
don't let me.
Right.
And his next response is, did you know that your broker-dealer actually has a social media guideline? And that they have rules and restrictions around it, and they make it very clear what you can and can't do. Did you know that you can use Facebook and LinkedIn? And
They don't know.
and he's doing like an interaction, and this is very similar conversations that I've had where advisors just go, broker dealer doesn't allow me to have a LinkedIn account, and I'm going, many of your peers do with your broker dealer, and they do. They even have a social media guide for you
And
to follow.
check
And I'm
back
not, when I was
learn more.
when I was thinking about this stuff, I'm not going to lie. The first thing that went through my head was like, are you really on LinkedIn? Because that's probably I would say the most commonly used social media. It was
for our industry.
for our
yeah.
industry.
Business
I was thinking about it in terms
sure.
of, okay, for us it's great, right? We can connect with advisors, DCIOs, wholesalers, whatever. But from an advisor standpoint, are you really going to try and connect with your plan sponsors? And the
hell
more we
to the
hold on. You're going to connect, but more so, I think it's important to be active with your social media because those plan sponsors, before they even hire you, are going to do their research on you. And if they see you actually actively involved
in the
posts,
industry,
it's
a great
intelligent,
point.
it's going to make, all the difference in the world.
For
I think.
sure.
Utilize it, make it look good. We talked about it last time. Show your uniqueness somehow. You could do it through that. I get that there's compliance, but really make it worth someone's while to go through and read it and show
Well-
what you do, how you do it, and have a picture as small as that. I mean, so John, his presentation, I'd recommend anyone to try to go through his presentation if they can. And he talks about how to prospect using LinkedIn, how to update your profile, what to put on there, what people are looking
Yeah.
for. I mean, he spells it out very clearly on how to set up a good LinkedIn page. And I'm focusing on that because, I know Facebook, I get it. I just don't think it's used as much in our industry as you should really focus on LinkedIn. I would like to pitch
It's not
LinkedIn
focused
to
in a
everybody.
professional way.
I'll be the
agree.
first one to say too, my LinkedIn's horrible, but I work out, I try to keep it updated. I like to post our videos, but I don't do a good enough job either. But I think advisors
You guys are
could
great
really-
examples to talk about this because I'm probably the one that's more
Most active.
deep
Yeah.
into it from a marketing standpoint. So you guys are a lot more like our viewers.
Yeah.
But what I want you and our viewers to understand is that social media really has grown to the point where today it is marketing.
Yeah.
It's the
Absolutely.
current medium for branding and marketing. Whether you're an advisor, whether you're a company, whether you're selling widgets, it really is, and so you need to, like Mark said, you gotta spend time on it. You gotta, and that's what he's saying, right? Create and follow a social media strategy.
That's what I was
Figure
just
out
gonna say.
who is your audience. What do you want your brand to look like? What are the types of messages you're going to deliver? What kind of content and valuable stuff are you going to deliver to your audience? It's the modern day world,
And
people.
What have we, regarding that social media strategy, what have we learned here on Retireholics is the most effective thing that we can do? continuous.
Stay
right?
consistent.
You can't just post. Well, these two have. We have to continue to produce content on a regular basis. And if you're writing one every quarter, you're probably not going to get many people that focus in on what you have to say. Whereas if you're delivering something on an ongoing basis, you get followers, you get people that like, just like we're all sitting here chatting about John. We all follow him because we like what he has to say.
It
John's
doesn't
a
have
perfect
to be
example.
Personalized blog post. It could be sharing an article, sharing.
Absolutely.
You can
JD's
cultivate.
blog, which is
You
awesome,
can
by the
cultivate content. You don't
But-
have to create it your
And
own.
you start a
Plug,
conversation. You start a conversation. You see people know you're active, and it's great.
And so I'm going to now talk about personal experience with it, and then we'll tie it to advisors. So on LinkedIn, I have thousands of followers, and the great majority of them,
Shameless plug.
the great majority of them are industry people, obviously on LinkedIn. You know, I don't just go to anybody. It's usually retirement or financial services people. It's probably better than my mailing list, my email list. It's more valuable for me to blast out on social media. I get way more interaction, way more engagement, way more phone calls back our way for business that I send along to you. It's a good thing. If I can do it in our business model, surely an advisor can do it in their business model. And so, step up your game. If you've been intimidated by it, if you don't understand it, start to do some research.
Let's get back to this. Maybe Brandon could post the
Got to do one of those.
link.
Did you go the right way?
It could be this way.
No.
Maybe it's this way.
Or
Brandon
this
could post
way.
the link to
Oh,
John's
boy.
article
This way.
because I'm telling you, you get this all the time from advisors that say, I can't be on social media. And his article kind of breaks
read it.
down as an advisor. Here's how you approach your broker dealer. They probably have a social media guideline that you can read. You can be on it. Here's what you need to be aware of. So it's more than just us ranting on it. There's something there that you can research and figure out how to
There
do.
might be limitations, but regardless of that, at least you're utilizing it,
Well,
and
it's
people
the new
expect
way, right?
that.
This is going to be the future too.
Yeah, well, thank you. So that's what I was going to say.
I'm sure advisors. I mean, I ask for meetings, and I get a LinkedIn invitation days later because I know they're like, who is this guy contacting me there? And then it's like, okay, I can see what he looks like.
But let's say the worst case scenario. Let's say you are an advisor and your broker dealer says absolutely not. And I like what you said. It's the future. Guess what? Eventually, those chains are going to be taken off. So you might as well start now learning
Future
about
presence,
it, watching it, seeing other examples at work. Because I guarantee you, eventually, a financial services professional will have to be fully engaged on social media. Not have to, but it's going to be a big part of their deals. Your broker dealer will start to ease up eventually.
Let me mention one more thing regarding social media and the beer that we just gave out for 6 months, the 6 month beer supply. Did you guys notice where most of the people were that commented? Well, I shouldn't say most, but did you notice the majority of the comments were not locally?
Yeah, I would say
Detroit, New York.
Oh,
I mean,
good.
they were spread. And that just shows you the kind of net that you can very quickly cast in social media
True.
when you start getting followers, is that you get people from everywhere.
True. But you got to make sure your business model fits that too,
Yeah.
right? Or you set it up so it can. All right. So social media, get on it. Financial advisors.
buddy.
That is our
Good point.
hash. Wow, they're starting. I don't know if they're making fun of you. or whether
There's something going on over there. Come on.
They do realize you're kind of their boss, right?
I think so.
So let's wrap it. This is episode 13.
Jed's head just went from here to here.
So you're all of our bosses, and that's even better.
Episode 13. Thank you to everybody out there who has engaged us through all the different social medias. It's been a lot of chatter through reaching out to us through email, through the comments you guys have gotten in live meetings, and Justin and I were in a conference
Vulgar
call the other
comments,
day.
keep those coming.
It's all good.
Been called some bad.
So
My
thank you
favorite
very
comment
much.
so far
Oh God.
is tell your boss he looks more and more homeless every time I see him.
Yes, that's actually
There's a story that we should probably tell about that.
That's exactly what I'm going for. No, we don't tell that story.
The
but
surf trip story. Come on.
No,
Wow.
here's what I'd like to leave the audience with. The more and more homeless my look appears to be, the less and less you guys ask me to go on meetings. And so my days are free. I don't have to go do stuff. I surely don't have to put on a suit and tie, so it's a win-win for
Have
me.
you been collecting a lot of change lately? Is it going well for you?
Thank you.
What
Episode
are we doing?
13. we
What are we
are changing the retirement plan industry one usually super dark beer at a time.
None of us finished that
Thank
beer.
you.
None of us. But I finished the Smirnoff Ice.
All right.
We were